Good morning, everyone. In the difficult and challenging times, what do you think about? What do I think about? And maybe another question, in the difficult and challenging times of our lives, what should we think about? So we see the first reading in the gospel unfolded today that will answer that question. Let's review quickly last week. We put it in this way, unfolding the gospel. The emptiness that we might feel in our heart is really only filled by the Lord. Remember the emptiness and the one who can fill it. We put it this way, there's a hole in my heart that can only be filled by you. So we can't fill it with popularity. We can't fill it with pleasures. We can't fill it with prestige or power. None of that. And we do. And that's why it's so important that we enter into prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, but in a special way, fasting, because we cultivate, just like Jesus did, an emptiness. So we can focus in and remind ourselves that it's only God that fills that yearning. Okay? We can't be completed by any other person or popularity, power, pleasures. Okay. Today, we're reminded that when we have, and I do say when we have the difficulties and challenges, because life is going to have those mountaintop experiences, and we're going to have the valleys. The reality is that when those times come, what do we end up thinking about? And maybe what should we think about? If you caught that experience of Abram was being called by God to leave a place of comfort. He was very comfortable where he was, but God spoke to him and said, your calling is not here. Okay, get up and leave. Leave the place where you were comfortable. And it was counted to him in faith and in righteousness, but it was still difficult. He did it, and now we get to a point where he is looking for something more. And the Lord does provide. He says, take these animals, split them in two, put one side here, one side here. It gets dark at night, and then in the darkness, this flame comes through and goes right down the middle. Now, for his time, Abram's time, this was a covenant ceremony. And what it meant was, if I would leave you, or if you would leave me, then may we be like these animals, split in two. And that's the importance. That's the experience of, in this moment, he experiences a great gift. And that is that the Lord will not leave him. Now, why did he get that experience? Well, I want to speculate that a number of years later, Abram, now Abraham, is marching up a hill, and he's carrying a light. And now his adolescent son, probably about 16, big, strong, has all of this kindling and wood, and he's carrying it up a hill. It's a prefigurement. Isaac, in that particular instance, would be a prefigurement of Jesus carrying his cross. Now, interesting enough, that hill that Abraham is walking up and Isaac is about a half mile away from the very spot where Jesus was crucified. And so here we have the prefigurement. I'm wondering what is Abraham thinking in this very moment? His whole desire, the big promise was that he would have progeny, that would number the stars. But now he has one son, his beloved. And he's marching up a hill, and the God has said, we have to sacrifice him. He doesn't fully understand it, but he's walking in faith. What's he thinking about? And what's he feeling? Now, my guess is he has all kinds of feelings. I can't believe he's asking me to do this. I'm angry. All kinds of thoughts. I don't understand this. All of those, though, probably fell to the side. And my guess is what he was remembering as he's walking through this time is that profound experience that God was the light and went right through the midst of those animals and declared to him, I will not leave you. We see then in the gospel, Mount Tabor, Jesus reveals fully who he is. His clothes are dazzling white, his face bright as the sun. Why did he do that for those three? Peter, James, and John. What was going through their minds as he was walking the road to Calvary? Well, Peter and James, I don't know where they went. John was always close. And in fact, he was there with the Blessed Mother at the foot of the cross. When they put Jesus up and kind of raised him, and there he's being crucified, what's going through John's mind? I speculate that he might have thought right back. I'm sure, again, all the different feelings, the crazy thoughts, but what brings him in this most difficult and terrible time? It's that moment that he saw the face of God. So again, I ask you, in your difficult times, in your challenging times, what do you think about? What should we think about? We should think about those moments where God came to us in such a personal and powerful way that it filled us, that we knew it was the living God. You say, well, Father, I'm not sure I had one of those. Well, there we have your extra prayer. Again, back to our penances, prayer, fasting, almsgiving. If we haven't had an experience like that, then pray every day. Lord, please come to me in a personal and powerful way. Help me to know that you're not just a concept. Okay? Help me to hear your voice in your word. Help me to see your very presence and experience it and feel it in the Eucharist. See, because the difficult and challenging times will come, he's given us these things that will bring us back when we just feel completely lost. For myself, those first 5 years of priesthood, I thought of an instance when I was in seminary, and it was always difficult. Should I leave? Should I stay? I walked away from a relationship with a woman and who I loved, and she loved me, and a six-figured income. And there was always that question, do I leave or do I continue through this process? And there was one instance where the rector had asked 4 of us to do a confirmation retreat. It was close to midterms, I believe, either that or finals. I don't remember. I had papers, we had tests, but he asked us as a personal favor. So there were 4 of us. We planned it. We unfolded the retreat. It was a profound experience, a profound encounter for Christ, for them and for all of us. And I remember, as they left and went this way, and we left on that Sunday morning, heading to breakfast, I could feel it in my heart. And I thought, that must be what it's like to love as a priest loves. And that was clarity for me, and I knew that I can go ahead and I can move forward to diaconate ordination. and then on to priestly ordination. 5 years into the priesthood, I mentioned this before, was a time where I got a call from my mother who told me that my grandfather was dying. He could last 7 days, could last a month. But I've heard that before, and so I asked her, "You're absolutely positive that he's going to make it through the night?" Yes. So the next morning, he was still alive. I drove the 5 hours over to see him. I anointed him, gave him the apostolic pardon, the last rites. There was a great peace that came over him. It was a beautiful moment. And then I got in the car, and by the time I got to my destination back home, he had died. But on that car ride there, it got dark, it was raining, it was a challenging drive. Externally, that's one thing, but I experienced a great darkness, and I don't know why. Maybe it was because I'm seeing the end of his life. But a great darkness came over me, and two questions came to mind. Am I crazy? And is my life a waste? I came face to face with those questions. And it was a wrestling back and forth. Thoughts would come to my mind just from a different angle of what I was thinking. And one of those questions, the first one was, do you believe in my son? Do you believe in Jesus Christ? And I had to wrestle with that, and I was trying to be very honest, and I came to the conclusion, yes, I do. I do believe in Jesus Christ. Do you believe in his priesthood? Do you believe that he started the priesthood with his apostles? Yes, I do. And and the Lord just stepped through a cascade of questions and ultimately said, well, then if you believe in that, then you stand in the stead of my son. You orient yourself towards the church, who is his bride, and you lay down your life for her. So now you tell me, this is what he's saying to me, that I'm supposed to answer those questions now. It was such a clarity that that's what I think about in the difficult times in the priesthood. When you kind of pour yourself out, and there's just whatever it is, finances, somebody, I don't like you. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Whatever it is, we all have those. What do you think about in the difficult times? He's given us those experiences to keep us clear, to keep us committed, and to help us to remember that he is always with us. We have a path to walk down, and it's not always going to be fun or easy, but that's the test of love. And really, that's the fullness of life, walking with the Lord down his path of greatness for us, knowing that he's there and knowing that he'll bring us through. What do you think about? What should you think about in the difficult times?